Hello everyone, we are joined by Aarit Kapil after 3 rounds at Menorca Open Chess Tournament at Menorca in Spain. Aarit, what a wonderful start to your tournament here at Menorca, like 3 out of 3, and that includes beating the former world junior champion Grandmaster Nogerbek Kazybek and also the IM Ansat Aldiyar, both from Kazakhstan. How do you feel?
I feel good, and but the tournament is not yet over. So, yeah, I'm seeing for the next games right now.
Okay, you're looking forward to the next games, yeah?
Yes,
Yeah, it's a long tournament and you've just started. Yeah,
yes,
but wonderful games so far. I mean, could you please take us through the game against the Grandmaster?
yes. So first I played d4, and then he actually played d5. I had prepared knight f6 actually, so it was already a surprise for me. So I just played normally with knight f3. Then he played e6. I knew a little bit about it, so I played g3, and then after knight d7, I was already surprised, but I thought okay bg2, and then he will play c6 bd6, and he will go into close Catalan after c4. But then he played b5, and actually I had never seen this before. But then I thought for a long time, and I thought okay I can strike in the center, and I thought that black's only problem is these two squares are a little weak, so I can take the control of these squares, and this is just normal. Then we can then here I thought the knight, okay, knight d2, and maybe I can even go knight f3 or knight b3 and see for these two weak spots. And then he played knight f6, and I thought okay I can play. He first played this, then I went here, and this is here, then I went here. Then actually I had thought that okay this endgame is fine for me after queen d5, queen takes d5, knight takes d5, because I thought that I can at any time go c4, and then that c6 square is weak. So I first played bd2, then he went with rook b6, and then I thought okay c4 bc4 knight c4, and now it comes by tempo, so black needs to play this. And then I went here. I was just playing normal, then this, and I wanted to double the rooks, so he went king d7, and I went here, and then he went bishop d6, not allowing me to play knight e3. Actually wanted to play g5, but knight e3 is there, so he first stopped it. So I just played normally with b3, and now he went g5. And then I thought okay now I can take the c6 square with knight a5, so I went rook b6, and then I thought that the position is about equal, so maybe I can repeat once. And then he actually went h5. Actually in this I wanted to go like with some rook c4 and just improve my position, but then he went h5, and I thought okay my position looks better because this square is again weak. But now rook b6, this, and he goes back, and I didn't saw a real way for me to continue from here, so I went back knight c4, this, and then I just improved my position with king g2, h4, and rook c1. And I think this was the crucial moment where I think g4 wasn't that great, because this allows gh4, and now if he will take, then I can take, and if takes, then I can enter with my rooks, and now maybe white can go rook g8, then rook c8, and it looks great for white, and the king looks a bit weak now. So, and if he takes with the king, then he weakens his structure, and maybe I can go king g3, rook h3, king g4, rook h2, and maybe play this position and see what happens. So, but here he went here he went with rook b7, and I thought take and king g3, and I had a nice position. I have a nice position, but after knight e7, after king g4, which was my idea, after knight f5, I didn't saw anything because rook h4 is coming, and I didn't liked my position a lot. The d4 pawn will fall, or even the h4 pawn. So I thought that I can play d5, and here if he will give a check, then now king f4 is there. And now if he will take, which I was calculating this, but I thought that okay, this should be better for white, this position. White's king is not getting mated, so I thought white is having a good position here. So here he played knight takes d5, king takes g4, and then he played e5, and I thought his idea is to play king e6 and rook g7. So I shouldn't let this rook come in the game, so I played f4, and if he takes, then I can take and take. And after this, white is the only one who is trying because of the two weaknesses, and the h pawn is a passer, so black shouldn't be going into this. So he went here, this and this, and here I thought that rook b8 was another mistake. Maybe he could have went this, and I was thinking that I will play king h3, because king h4 allows something like rook g2, and king f3 there is knight e7, and black takes the f5 pawn, and if king e4, then d5 is there.
Okay.
So I thought the rook g8 was the better move, because rook b8 actually even weakens this. And here now after e4 I had king h5, and now I can't play e3 because I can just take. And after knight e3 there's rook c7, and black's position, black's pieces are just they are not really doing much, so I thought that this is just winning after h7, and black needs to like sack the rook for the pawn, and it's just winning. So here he went with rook e8. I think he should have went with rook g8, and here I was planning for some bishop e3, because now he can't take, because this is just mate now. So now, but he played rook e8, which allows bishop a5, I think, and now rook c7 is a big threat, and I think maybe he thought that rook g8, and okay, the position is fine, but I think that this is just winning now, because all of black's pieces are just now doing nothing, and now rook g5 is the only threat, so I stopped it too. And now black cannot really move, so he just played rook g1, and he just plundered this. And now if he plays king s7, then rook h8, and white is just clearly winning.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for taking us through. But I think like the second game of yours versus the IM stands out,
Yes.
and you had an accuracy of more than 97% in the game.
Yes.
Yeah. And would you be able to take us through that as well?
Okay, so in that game I was with black. So So in this game I was playing with the black pieces. So I knew that he plays e4, so he will play e4, and then I had prepared c5, knight f3, knight c6, and actually he played knight c3 against Haik Maitrosian, but against me he played bb5. But I knew the theory in this, and this is the theory. And then white sacrifices this one pawn for bishop f4, and here I think he would have thought that I will play knight g7, which is also playable, but a6 cuts white's chances of playing bishop e2 because of d5 is there. And if d3, then white can take and take, and this, and white has a fine position, and black's development is nothing. So here bishop e, if bishop e2, then there's d5 and black is fine. So now white needs to go bishop a4, and now after knight g7 he played knight to bd2, and here I was thinking that can I play d5 or not. So I thought, okay, I should just play normally, and after this b5, and then I went for the bishop pair, and after rook c1 I thought that okay, I'm having the bishop here, but then I understood my problems of the position, that white can maybe take on d4, and after bb7 I thought bc7, and white should be better here because this position just doesn't look good for black. But he went knight c5, and after bc6 if he will take, then I am having rook e8, and now if he will take, then takes, and black structure is good. So now black can strike with knight c8, and maybe bishop f8, just kicking out the bishop and the knight. So I thought this is good, and but he went queen b3, and now if I'll play rook e8, then this knight g5, and now the f7 pawn is weak. So I first played h6, rook d1, and rook e8, and here I was actually setting a trap for him to fall. If he will take, then bishop takes d4. Now and if he will play takes, then knight f5 is there, and if ef5, then queen g5, and now the c1 rook is also in attack, and the g2 pawn is also in attack. So this is winning for black. So he can't go into this, and he saw that, so he played bishop e5, and after d6 here is the critical point. I think maybe should have just taken on g7, or maybe even on d4, but he went here, and this allows me bishop d5, and now white needs to take ed5, but now dc5 comes, and now c4 is a big threat, and if white will take, then take take, and queen d6, and after knight d3 there's this, and now wherever the rook goes, let's say g4, then this queen takes c5, and if I takes, then rook e1 is mate. So this is winning. So he can't take my pawn, and so he went back, but now I'm having c4, and if he will play queen c3, then I'm having f6, and this endgame is good for black. After rook takes d5, queen takes f6, black is the only one trying here. So he didn't went into this, and he played queen c2, but this just allows takes and knight takes d5, and I and I knew he will take, but now queen g5 is here, and after h5 I thought queen h5, and I am just clearly better. White needs to take on d5. I thought that now this knight is just trapped, and if queen d2 then rook a d8, and now if the knight will move then takes, but actually I didn't start this move, and now if I will take then this, but I don't need to go into this again, and now knight b4, and now it's clearly better for black still. And now after knight f4, if I would have played queen e5, I think he was setting up some trap with rook d5. And if queen e4, then f3 is there. And when I need to take, then he will take on f3, d3. And then the position is close to equal because my king is weak. So I need to take, and then white can survive in that endgame. So I didn't went into it, and I just took the pawn, and now queen f6 is a big threat, so I thought that he will go for something like this, which I thought that okay, I should be clearly better because I'm up a pawn, but I think that this was the best he could have done in that position. But he went rook f1, which just allows queen f6, and I think he would have seen this, and if rook e2 then rook g4, and now I lose my rook, but I am having king h7, and if he play, and now what he played rook d7, and now rook e2 is a big threat, so he played rook d7, but now I am having queen e6, and now his knight is also under attack, and the rook, so now I need to give up the exchange. But now queen e4, and now I forced him to trade the queen, and if I would have taken here, then this, and that's perpetual check with queen f6. So I just did queen c4, then even knight c3, take, and now I stopped the knight from going to d4 or to e4. Now I played f3, and I went f5, and now after rook f2 I played rook e1, king h2, and now after b4 the knight is also misplaced, and after take rook g8, this here he resigned because after king g3 rook g1, first you cannot play take because of take, and the only problem is that after rook c8 now rook c6 will come, and this knight is just trapped, and if he will go for something like king h2, now rook g6, and if f4 then rook f5, and now rook h5 is made, and if there is something like knight c5, still rook f5 rook h5 is a threat, so he needs to play f4 rook f5 rook f3, but at the end of this variation now rook c6, and the knight is trapped, so black is just winning.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you for that deep insight into two of your games. Yeah, absolutely love it. And yeah, thanks a lot. And wishing you all the luck for the rest of your tournament. Yes, as you said, there is long way to go. I hope you finish on the leaderboards. Thank you.